This doctor makes house calls. Russo brothers Joe and Anthony told Entertainment Tonight that Iron Man turned Doom actor Robert Downey Jr. is doing a lot of work to prepare for his role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His new role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Joe Russo commented that Downey is dialed in and the actor is even writing backstory for the character, immersing himself in the role. It seems hard to believe that it was just July that the announcement was made about Downey returning in the MCU in his new mask, new task role. What is our take hearing this commitment?
If you know much about Robert Downey Jr. as an actor, you really shouldn't be surprised at his level of commitment. The man's an Oscar winner now, and it was a long time coming. I harken back to his role as Charlie Chaplin back in his way younger years, and he did a lot of prep work for that role. And so one thing I do love about RDJ is he does seem to love the MCU and appreciate what it did for him as an actor and as a person. And so I really loved seeing this, that he's like super into it. They talked about how he's like coming up with costume ideas for Doom and just like totally going, you know, all in on the kitty. So I was like, that sounds like the RDJ we want, and it sounds like the Doom we want. The Russos talk about how Doom is this extremely complicated character, and I think RDJ did too, about like he's the most complicated character in Marvel Comics. So I just love it. I love to see it, and it really does get me excited for Doomsday. I know we talked about the leaked concept art last week, and I was just kind of like, now I'm doubling down on this movie feeling really, really real and exciting, and like we're getting it next year.
It's so crazy.
Close.
Yeah. My fiance was looking at some news story. She used to listen to Multiverse News. Kind of stopped, but you know, she's not into the geeky things. She was only listening to it because she was excited about it being our new show when it first started, and then she stopped. But so she was going through, and she's like, "Oh, we saw Vanessa Kirby in a new movie, Pieces of a Woman, last night," and I was just like, "Oh yeah, she's in the new Fantastic Four, Matt. Did you know that?" And I was like, "Yes, I did. Yes, I did."
It's nice of her to keep you informed.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. And then she's like, "Oh, and she's in 2 Avengers movie in 2026 and 2027. That's crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, that is crazy." But yes, I am aware. This is really, really funny. But yeah, this is just crazy. This is so soon, and 2 Avengers movies in basically 2 years from now. I mean, 2 years and 2 months. That's really wild. And I do get really excited by hearing that Robert Downey Jr. is taking this very seriously. I think one of the reasons the whole MCU worked is because RDJ took Iron Man incredibly seriously, and both from he's an actor that takes it seriously from a character perspective and like a pathos perspective, but like also just entertaining, makes the character entertaining. And I think finding a new way to do that with this character that is different from Iron Man, I'm really excited to see what he comes up with.
I like what I'm hearing, but it does give me pause. And RDJ's talent, character work, or his process are no way in question for me. But I'm hoping this backstory that he's concocted is at least somewhat informed by the comics, because again, we don't know what version of or what version of Doom we're getting here. But with the Tony Stark of it all, I'm still hoping that we're going to get some kind of inversion of the infamous Iron Man run from Brian Michael Bendis, where Doom takes up the mantle of Iron Man. So hopefully it's vice versa here, where we have Iron Man taking up the mantle of Doom. But with all of that in mind, I've gotten back into comics recently, and I've been reading Dan Slott's 2018 Fantastic Four run, and it really has reminded me of who and what Doom is, as well as what he's not. So again, we have basically 3 movies that we know he's going to appear in. First, he's going to show up in Fantastic Four First Steps, probably right at the very end. Then we'll get Doomsday, and then we'll get Secret Wars. I think my hope is that at least that appearance in Fantastic Four, while it might be limited, he just really leans into like the comic book version of Doom. Just like give us this maniacal, egotistical version that we've always seen. And then in Doomsday, give us the backstory and let us know how he's informed by being a variant of Tony Stark. Because again, I'm really leaning into that. If that's not the case, and this is just stunt casting, that's not going to sit well with me. I know RDJ has all the talent in the world, but I really need this version of Doom to be connected to Tony Stark in some way.
Yeah, I think that's what you hope is that everybody's coming to the table feeling a little bit refreshed. I mean, the cynical take is everybody's just in it for the money, and RDJ's in it for the private trailer park and the jets and all of the giant contract that he got, and that's the cynical take. But I think the other way to look at it is to say, all right, the Russos didn't have to do this. They didn't have to come back. They maybe had an idea. Even we heard this from Stephen McFeely whenever they called McFeely, and they said, we want to do this. We want to do this two Avengers thing, these two movies. And he essentially, by his words, hung up on them and then called them back the next day and said, well, actually, wait a minute. I think I have a really good idea for this. And I think that's the hope here, is that everybody's coming to the table fresh. And the MCU, while it accomplished so much and told this sprawling story over decades, essentially, it's probably burned some of these guys out a little bit. I mean, doing Avengers Infinity War, doing Endgame, like that's a lot for Robert Downey Jr. and for the Russos and McFeely and all of these people associated. So they took their break. He got his Oscar. The Russos went out, tried a couple projects out. And so I think like coming back together to the table, there's hope there that there's a little bit of freshness. It's a little bit of like, all right, we've taken a little bit of a break and now we've thought on some ideas, we stewed on some stuff, and we can bring a lot to the table. And hopefully that's what they're saying with this quote, is that RDJ is feeling like he's ready to tackle it again with fresh vision.
Yeah.
I go back and forth, like, do I want this to be a Tony Stark variant or not? I know it would be really hard for the mass public to unsee it, right? You can't ask somebody who only watches some of the movies, maybe not even all of them, to go to the theater and accept that this is not Tony Stark as Victor Von Doom. But I don't know. I wonder, like, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. would do it without being able to do what you're saying and give the character a ton of nuance. I mean, a lot of times in comics, Doom is just the man behind the mask, and you don't get a lot of, it's hard to emote and stuff like that. And RDJ famously hated like the heads up scenes as Iron Man because all he could, like, he couldn't move. He couldn't, so because he's an actor that likes to move and he likes to be physical. And so I think that it's an interesting challenge for him in that way. And so hopefully that's along the lines of what he's doing. Like, how do I make this character work for me as an actor and the way I like to do things? If you listen to the commentary on the first Avengers movie, Joss Whedon talks about how his first scene that he filmed as Tony Stark was the scene where Fury's telling them that Coulson died, and he just had to sit there and be still, and he hated it. And so that makes me very interested to see what he's going to do, what notes he's going to give himself to play this character that's very, hidden away behind costuming and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do this in a million years, but I can't help but think, with everything you're mentioning there, Haley, like, what if the only reason he took this on is to prove something? Like, yeah, Doom is only going to be behind the mask, and it's the ultimate challenge. Like, how do you deliver without ever seeing my face? And it's all just based on a physical and voice performance there. Like, again, they won't do that because with a bankable star like RDJ, you're going to show the face probably more often than not. But again, that's kind of my hope for maybe that Fantastic Four movie. You just see him and he doesn't remove the mask, and that's where you really get that like comic book version of Doom people have been pining for so many years. And then in the next two movies, we can, lean into the Tony Stark of it, or like, Haley, if you're right, maybe not.
I don't know if I'm right, and I don't know if I want to be right. I'm just like, I ponder it every now and then.
Sure.
Yeah. I just find it so funny, the stratification that this has caused, and it has not gone away, and there's not been like, a lot of times the geek sphere will hear news, and it's sort of like chews on it for a few days, and then there's sort of a narrative develops that everyone's kind of like, all right, yeah, we all kind of see, we've heard the arguments of how this could work and how it couldn't work, and we kind of like come to a consensus on like, everyone's excited about this, everyone's worried about this, like, and that's not true. Everybody has their own opinions specific. That's why we do these podcasts, because we all have our own 4 different opinions, even though we're all similar perspectives, I would say, on things. We all have very different opinions sometimes. It's just interesting that I don't think this one has coalesced at all. There are still people out there that are just like, it better not, this better be Doom, and it better not be a variant of Tony Stark. And then there's other people that are like, this better not be just stunt casting, like you were saying, it's just like, those two things are still completely coexisting, and there has not been a unified narrative. And then, like you said, Haley, you're like, I don't know what I want. Like, I don't, it could be either way, and I don't know. It's weird and squishy. Like, and they better have a great idea, is all I'm saying. Like, I don't know what I want either. But I trust these guys, and just hope that it's not just money that's making this happen, and that it's some sort of passion behind it. And that's what the story is tonight. It seems like that's at least the narrative they're selling.
Let's ask the Bloodworm Moon and see.
I'll ping it off camera.
Oh, Bloodworm Moon.
We need to figure out how to talk to this thing. I mean, I don't know.
I really enjoyed the. Did you ever watch those G.I. Joe? The ones that came out early internet videos where like the G.I. Joes were like,
we're making
bottom
sloppy
massage.
joes.
We're making sloppy joes over here. I'm a computer. Like all that weird stuff. Like it was so good. I loved it. But one of them is the guy keeps saying bottom massage, and he goes, bottom massage. And me and my friends took a funk beat and laid that down over it and put a bunch of like music over it. And so there's a recording of this music going home. And Haley, you just reminded me of it a lot with your Blood Moon.
Well, I'm expecting a Bloodworm Moon track now, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll take
we're reciting the early internet magic tonight.
Yeah.
Do not speak of the deep magic to me, witch.
maybe we only bring up the G.I. Joes is because that's the last. That's the last time the Bloodworm Moon came around, and it inspired those. And now we're the next iteration of the Bloodworm Moon.
We will design a toy line of action figures. It will become a multimedia franchise.
When they speak of this episode in the future, they'll just say you had to be there. You know?
And they will.
Had to be there.
And they will. You just watched a clip from Multiverse News. If you liked it, go to our channel. We got a whole episode that it comes from. So go check that out and hit the like and subscribe. And we got lots of clips you'll enjoy, but also full hour-long episodes of Multiverse News with lots of things that don't even make it to clips. So check us out.
You stay clippy.